its earliest days to the present. As a member, you'll receive the Argonaut, an award-winning publication that has provided in-depth historical accounts for over 30 years. And the Panorama, a quarterly newsletter covering ongoing activities and historical presentations. Go to sfhistory.org and discover the San Francisco Historical Society, giving our history a great future. Become a member today.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ-FM in HD1 San Francisco, on Odyssey Sports Station. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
Good morning, area.
It's time to wake up. It's 5, and we're live.
Oh, is this thing on? I don't care. I want him to hear.
This is the Pregame Show, your early morning shot of sports on 95.7 The Game.
Come on!
We're so back, baby. Let's go. Thursday Night Football tonight, 49ers, Seahawks. It's time to get locked in. Because starting right now with this show, all night long, all day long, we're going to be breaking down, previewing, recapping, and discussing this massive Week 6 showdown in Seattle, division rivals, first place in the division on the line as the 49ers are coming off a horrible loss. The Seattle Seahawks coming off a horrible loss. It feels like a must-win for both teams. That's how they're going about it. 49ers cannot fall to 0-3 in the division. The Seahawks cannot let the 49ers off the hook this early in the season. They want to start building some momentum. They want to build some breathing room, and they want to prove that they're the top dog in this kind of bad NFC West, to be honest with you. Might be the worst division in football. Right now, again, things can change. It's early, but right now, it's not looking great. And that's a good news. And that is good news for the 49ers. Like, you win this game, you're in first place. Not sugarcoating it here. That's the reality here. As, you know, Joe Lake.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
I know.
You can sit here and do a sugarcoat job.
I know, Joe. Big win last night for the Dubs. 28 made threes. Not a bad night. Fortunately, it was a preseason game. And we're going to be talking about some regular season games coming up here for the Golden State Warriors. But as it pertains to that, preseason, doesn't get a lot of time on this show. Maybe other ones. Maybe the Morning Roast will discuss it. Maybe Steiny and Goo. Maybe Willard and Dibbs. I'm not talking about preseason game. Unless something horrible happened. And thankfully, it didn't. Everyone's healthy. Let's keep it that way. Good morning to all you just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school. It's almost the weekend. Holiday weekend for a lot of you. Here in the business, we don't really get Monday off, although I'll be off tomorrow through Monday because I'm going to Hawaii. My best friend's getting married, so that will be very nice. But I'm going to enjoy tonight as well, and I hope all of you do as well because there's a watch party, right? The Veranda in Concord, Steiny, Goo, Be There or Be Square. They're going to be live and local till 6 o'clock from the start of their show onward. So go ahead and go join Steiny and Guru. It's a live show, right? Is it a live show? Or are they just going to be there from 4 to 6? I'll get more information about it. But right now, you know the number, 888-957-9570. That's the caller text, the Comcast Biz text line. Also hit me up via Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. And as you know, all guests appear on the River Islands guest line here at 95.7 The Game. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands, River Islands in Lathrop? All right. Speaking of the River Islands guest line, great guests yesterday, as always, but Willard and Dibbs, Greg Cosell, every week, Wednesday, 3:15, appointment radio. He breaks it down better than anyone else. What's the tape saying? We'll get into some of that. Also, the former head coach of one Christian McCaffrey, who has not been playing this year, reigning Offensive Player of the Year, Ron Rivera and Cal Bear, he joined Willard and Dibbs as well yesterday, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. He had some interesting thoughts. That's a guy that's been to a Super Bowl, lost, knows how hard it is to try to get back to the mountaintop. Never did that with Carolina or Washington, of course, but he's making the media rounds. I think he's been doing some radio, calling some games on the radio side. So good for him. He's back in the game as an analyst. So want to react to that as well. But I want to react to you at 888-957-9570. It's a simple question on a game day on Thursday Night Football. Who wins tonight and why? Who's winning? And what's going to be the difference in this game? The difference for me, and it's really simple, and it's an area where the 49ers have struggled in, is if you're getting touchdowns instead of field goals in the red zone. That is going to be the difference. Might seem simple, but for the 49ers, it's been anything but simple. They can get there. They can't cash in. They have red zone blue balls right now, and it's not a good time. Red versus blue, not good. Shout out Halo 2, for those of you who get the reference. Still the greatest console game of all time. Don't at me. Halo 2, Lockout, 2v2. I don't even need to say more. Please. But what is going on in the red zone? It can't be as simple as no Christian McCaffrey. I get it. He is one of one. He makes things really easy. Thank you, Sam Lubin, for dropping my phone off. Sam Lubin, the great producer and host of Garlic Fries and Baseball Guides. So for all of your baseball content, all of your Giants talk, Buster Posey, what have you, join the great Sam Lubin. By the way, Roxy Bernstein joined the Morning Roast yesterday, who's been calling the Padres-Dodgers series for ESPN Radio. Obviously, our friend here at 95.7 The Game as well. He's optimistic about the Giants. He's not down on them in the future. He thinks getting back into the NL West race is feasible within the next coming years. So find that interview, and I'm sure Sam Lubman and Joe Shasky will react to that on their next podcast. But back to the 49ers and the red zone issues. It can't be as simple as Christian McCaffrey not being there. Not when you have George Kittle, not when you have Brandon Ayuk still, not when you have Brock Purdy still, not when you have Deebo Samuel, and Jordan Mason is a top 5 running back in the NFL. So I just can't buy that. So what is it? What is the problem? Well, a couple guys joined our stations yesterday, and let's see if we could dissect the overarching theme here from a couple of these clips. First, Ben Solak, who does a hell of a job for ESPN, formerly of The Ringer. He is an ESPN NFL analyst, crunches a lot of numbers, X's and O's, film guy, knows what he's talking about. Joined Steiny and Goo yesterday to talk about the 49ers red zone problem.
Yeah, you brought up the red zone numbers. The red zone numbers are the most important ones, where I think they really, really feel the absence of McCaffrey. Because red zone defense is a lot of like, all right, we don't have to pack the zones deep downfield, 20 yards, 30 yards down the field anymore. So we can really get 7 guys with eyes on the quarterback, 8 guys with eyes on the quarterback. They can all relate to one another. We can condense some of this space. And the solution for that, for Kyle, for the last year and a half was, okay, I'm going to throw the ball to McCaffrey or Deebo early in the down, and I'm just going to expect them to break tackles on you. And we're going to be able to brute force this thing in with the running game, with the quick passing game. And with Mason back there, they're a little bit worse in those tight areas. He's not the same runner that McCaffrey was. He's a good player, but he's not as good in the tight spaces, making the right reads, kind of surviving through contact like Christian was. And then their pass game in the red zone is really, really rough at this time. They're a lot better at this stage, scoring from explosives, scoring from further out than they are right now, scoring when they get a little bit tighter in there. And so I think that the red zone deficiency is really where I'm looking at Kyle and being like, man, you have to come up with some more clever stuff, some more stuff that's going to catch teams by surprise.
There's one thing I dispute there when he said he's not good through finishing contact in regards to Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason's number 2 in the league right now with yards after contact. It's Derrick Henry, who's a Hall of Famer, and then Jordan Mason. And then the guy that just did brute force on you last week, James Conner, right behind him. So he's a physical running back. Now, to Ben's overarching point, though, the absence of Christian McCaffrey in the passing game, okay. But you had to have known that if you're Kyle Shanahan, right? Like, you knew about this bilateral Achilles tendonitis. You should have been game planning all offseason for potential life without Christian McCaffrey this year, right? Right? I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that they didn't think it was this serious in the offseason, and then all of a sudden close to the regular season. Now it's actually pretty serious, and now he's taking flights to Germany to get it fixed. Like, you had to have known what you were getting yourself into potentially this year on offense. And you still have Deebo Samuel. You still have Brandon. I want some one-on-one matchup nightmares if I'm on offense. And I have a couple of guys to do that. First and foremost, I need a fade or a one-on-one matchup. Isolate George Kittle on someone. Now, if you listen to the offense, you'll talk about, oh, well, they're throwing different schemes at us. So you hear from George Kittle, yeah, they're throwing at stuff at us that we weren't anticipating because we didn't practice for it. That's on Kyle to adjust back. This is how it works. The league adjusts to you, and you adjust back. It's like baseball. Oh, a rookie hitter, a Jackson Merrill starts on fire, or a Casey Schmidt, for example, starts on fire. What happens? The league adjusts. You get a scouting report. Turns out Casey can't lay off the slider. Outside and away. He'll chase it every time. So you know what pitchers are going to do? They're going to just keep doing that until you adjust back. And it's the same in football. The league is going to take away whatever you want to do. They're going to double bracket, double coverage, your biggest and baddest weapons. But that's what's frustrating because the 49ers have a lot of those guys. Weapons. And you need to be creative. That's the one thing that I think Andy Reid, and I see Chris in San Jose, I'll get to you in a second, 888-957-9570. It's the one thing that Andy Reid has over Kyle Shanahan. It's that red zone play calling. Now, the Chiefs this season have not been great at that either. But when you have a magician like Mahomes, like Kelsey, you find a way to get it done. I need to see more of that from Purdy and Kittle, because Kittle is a better athlete than Travis Kelsey right now at this stage in both of their careers. I'm not going to say that about Brock Purdy over Patrick Mahomes, but he has the intangibles to scamper around, and make something out of nothing. The problem is he's having to do that way too much, and defenses are punishing them for it. Now, you heard from Ben Solak on the red zone problem. Let's hear from Greg Cosell on the 49ers red zone issues.
This is where McCaffrey certainly is a factor, because there's normally when these things happen, there's not just one reason, as you guys know. I would say it resulted from an inability to run the ball in the low red zone, meaning 10 yards and in. There were snaps in which there was less than stout pass protection at times. Purdy at times I thought broke down in the pocket a little too soon, and I thought there were examples where there was strong coverage by the Cards, and he didn't have the timing and rhythm throw that he anticipated having. So there was one play in particular that came with 16 seconds remaining in the first half when Kittle broke wide open on a stick nod, but Purdy felt inside pressure. We can debate whether there was truly pressure. Only he could tell you what he felt. I wasn't sure there was truly pressure, and normally he stands there and delivers, but that would have been an easy touchdown because Kittle broke wide open. So there's multiple reasons, but this week was very problematic in the red zone, and that was a big factor in why they lost.
So you heard from Solak. He says McCaffrey, the absence hurts. Cosell says the absence of McCaffrey hurts. Well, got news for you. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon, one Christian McCaffrey. So they better figure it out, and they better figure it out quickly, starting tonight in Seattle, where both teams are desperate for a win coming off bad losses. Chris, he's in San Jose. He wants to weigh in on the conversation at 888-957-9570. What's going on, Chris? You're on the pregame show.
Hey, morning, Spadoni.
Let's go.
When you play one of those clips, you know what I hear? I hear a lack of creativity, like you're saying, a boring offense. Kyle, just somebody who thinks, hey, I can run the ball behind Trent, or I can flip it to Debo, I can flip it to CMC. They'll make it work out. And that's just not the case. I mean, Debo, I've harped on it before. He sneaks behind the defense every once in a while, but 90% of the time, Kyle has him out in the flat, running a 3-yard route. Everybody can suck up on him. Pause. Sorry. And, it's just not creative. Everybody knows what we're going to do with Debo now. CMC, yes, we miss him. CMC's a great running back. But you can't dial something. You can't dial anything up to get somebody open, Kyle. I know Willard hates this word, but the reality is everybody does call you a genius, But simultaneously, the reality is you've also blown a bunch of second-half leads dating back to you being the one responsible for Atlanta losing the Super Bowl against New England. Period, point blank. That type of stuff, when you have a 5 to 6 to 7, 8-year track record of doing the same thing, you have to be held accountable. I'll give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this regard. Yes, you missed CMC. We all know that. And I just personally don't think the personnel is anywhere near as good as we thought it was going to be coming into the season. Mature Gross Matos, he's out. Floyd is a bust. So, defensive line stinks. Trent missing all that time. Yeah, that's your fault, buddy. But guess what? You're getting put on your ass by a second-year no-name player on the Arizona Cardinals. So, Kyle is responsible for a certain amount, but the boys gotta step it up today, period. You're going on the road to the 12th man. This could be a shellacking if they don't come ready to play. That's all I got to say, Spadoni. Love you. I love how you lead it off, brother. You're the man. Let's have a great Thursday. Good day to you, sir.
Thank you. That's a walk-off. Chris in San Jose, Pregamer of the Year nominee. How about that for your Doobie Awards? And no, it's not going to be at a gentleman's club. I don't even think are they even open this early? Is it 24 hours? I hope not. Boy. But he makes a lot of great points. And I feel his frustration. It's hard not to feel desperate at this point and frustrated with the offense. You're getting down there and fumbling the ball away and not scoring touchdowns. And now your kicker's hurt all of a sudden, so you have to rely on a backup. So you damn sure don't want to have to start settling for field goals because all it takes is one miss, and now you got a backup who's got the yips, and it's a trickle-down effect. And now you got a mess on your hands. Again, it's not good. And how does it get fixed? Just exploit the weakness of the defense. It's really that simple. It's Tetris. It's finding the right, shape to go into the right combination. It's all a puzzle. And that's why we call Kyle Shanahan a genius, because he solves this puzzle offensively more often than not. Unfortunately, this season, he's been getting stuck on that Rubik's Cube. I mean, he gets down there and he looks all around. It's like, oh man, this is all the colors are great. It's all, oh. And then he looks in the corner and there's one little dot and the entire section is red and one little spot is green. You were so close, Kyle. But you just couldn't solve the puzzle. And that's the case against the Rams. It's been the case against the Cardinals. And against the Vikings, you just got your ass kicked. It should have been a blowout, to be quite honest. But now you have a chance, an unfortunate chance, to go 0-3 in your first 3 divisional games. And this is a team and a coach that hangs their hat on dominating the division. That is what they've done. They've beaten up on the rest of the NFC West. And if you're not going to be able to do that, I got news for you. You might not make the playoffs. If you can't handle your own division, just look at the schedule coming up. Chiefs, Cowboys. Say what you will about the Cowboys. If they haven't impressed you all season, that's fine. The 49ers really haven't impressed me all season, to be honest. Great. You beat the Patriots and you beat a bad Jets team that is a dumpster fire right now. Those are their 2 wins right now. Do you feel good about those 2 wins over the Jets and Patriots? I don't. Then you got the Bucks, who just blew it against the Atlanta Falcons. So you got 2 teams that like to blow leads. Then you got the Seahawks again in November. Packers, Bills, Bears, Rams. Sensing a theme here? I don't see an easy game the rest of the way for the 49ers. Even the Dolphins by December 22nd. Maybe Tua's back. I don't know. But there is nothing easy, as Zaza Pachulia likes to say, about this 49ers schedule the rest of the way. It feels like in the past, they've gotten some easy schedules. They've gotten some scheduling quirks. Or they've been able to take care of business early, give themselves some breathing room, and so they don't have to play catch up if they go on a 3-game losing streak like they did last year. They were still 6-3, heading into the bye, dominate Jacksonville, and everything's back and rolling. And you're all good. You lost to the Browns, you lost to the Vikings, and then who was it? The Bengals. And it was not a good time. But all it takes is one win. in a win tonight, and I'm not saying it doesn't have to be dominating fashion. It's a divisional game. It's going to be tough. Seattle's a very tough environment, and Seattle's desperate as well. But you handle business tonight, then yes, take a deep breath. Chiefs come into town. You'll take it game by game. But you need a win tonight. Absolutely. 888-957-9570 is the number. Now, we heard from Ben Solak, ESPN. We heard from Greg Cosell, also ESPN, but also our 95.7 The Game NFL insider. Breaks down film better than anyone outside of our own, Brian Baldinger, of course. Ron Rivera. Now, here's a guy, as I go Chris Collinsworth, here's a guy that knows what it's like to coach Christian McCaffrey when he's on the team and when he's not on the team, and the difference in that offense and what it looks like. He joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, courtesy of the River Islands guest line, former head coach of the Carolina Panthers, Ron Rivera, still not knowing what the identity of the 49ers is on offense without McCaffrey.
To me, the 49ers still don't know their identity. A big piece of who they are is missing, and that's Christian McCaffrey. I get it. His replacement rushed for over 500 yards so far. But what's crazy about that, though, is look at where they are in the red zone. They were number one last year in the red zone. I believe they're 30th in the red zone this year as far as scoring touchdowns are concerned. So there's a little bit of something there, and I think a big part of it is you miss the diversity of who Christian McCaffrey is, the ability to run the ball and come out of the backfield as a pass-catching threat.
Okay, this is what the identity should be. Just judging with what you have right now for the 49ers, and I think this is what frustrates fans like guys like Chris in San Jose. Kyle could be stubborn at times with his play calling, with everything. But he's a smart guy. He is. He understands X's and O's better than I ever will. Having said that, sometimes it's okay to ask Madden. Sometimes it's okay to go with a vanilla offense if you are executing everything at a high level. They're not. What they are executing, though, is Jordan Mason runs. Jordan Mason is running the ball effectively. Okay, I can work with that. He's getting yards after contact. I can work with 4 or 5 yard chunks. And you know what I do after that? If I'm establishing the run early on, which is what the 49ers have been doing, I run the play action. I throw the ball deep. I throw a post route to Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, something. Get them in space. Get them their yards after contact. That is what I need. The play action game for the 49ers, a staple, long time. Like, I just think of those Tom Brady teams, and I'm not saying Josh McDaniels' offense and Kyle Shanahan, different. Yes. But I look at those teams and why they were able to sustain success for so long with a limited quarterback physically when it comes to running and mobility. Thomas still had a great arm strength, great pocket presence, and had just enough mobility in the pocket to scamper around when he needed to. But what separated those Patriots teams was the ability to plug and play rushers, different ones. James White in the passing game, when they had a Shane Vereen, when they had Jonas Gray, remember, until he showed up late for camp and they cut him. Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, I just like saying that name. It's a great name. Kevin Falk. When you had all those different running backs throughout the years, being able to just run it and then set up that play action, hitting Gronk for a big play, hitting a Wes Welker, a Julian Edelman, that was a staple for 2 decades. It's tried and true. It's okay to be vanilla, but you just got to execute. And right now, they are not executing the cute plays nor the vanilla plays when they need to in the red zone. I'm not asking you to do double reverses, Philly specials all the time. Just asking for execution. That's it. That's it, and that's all, man. 888-957-9570. Good morning to all you just getting off work, getting ready for work, getting ready for school. It's the pregame show, Joe Spadoni. You got me till 6 o'clock. So the floor is yours. Who wins tonight and why? 49ers, Seahawks. Let me look up what's the line on this game right now? I'm going that right now. Right meow. All right. All right, this is too much. There's 3.5 points. All right. Found it. 49ers are 3.5-point road favorites. Now, I wouldn't touch this game with that hook. That hook scares me. And the hook is that little half point at the end. So if this was a neutral field, they'd be close to a touchdown favorite. 3.5 points for this 49ers team, a little rich for me. And money's been coming in on the 49ers. People like the Niners today. The sharp money, the wise guys, if you will, they like the 49ers tonight. Who do you like? 888-957-9570. And why? Why do they win? Why do they lose? Who's going to be the difference in this game? Again, for me, it's getting in the red zone and scoring touchdowns. You settle for field goals in this game, the way Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and they're going to be featuring Kenneth Walker a lot more today, it seems like. You settle for field goals in this game, it could be getting late early. From the Xfinity, check that, Comcast Business text line. From the 415, Brock is like an unempowered Mahomes and Reed is like a well-seasoned Kyle. Interesting. Brock Purdy is like an unempowered Mahomes and Reed is like a well-seasoned Kyle. I mean, that's kind of disrespectful to Andy Reid considering he's the one with 3 Super Bowls and not Kyle Shanahan. I'd rather say Kyle Shanahan is a bland Andy Reid at this point. That makes me feel a lot better with that analogy. And comparing anyone to Patrick Mahomes, I just don't even do it. An unempowered, stop. Just stop. Don't compare any football player, any quarterback, anyone to Patrick Mahomes. Not Josh Allen, not Lamar Jackson. And by the way, look at Josh Allen. Oh, he turned back into a pumpkin for a little bit. Who could have seen that coming? They still might make the playoffs. They still might win the division. Just stop crowning these guys after a couple weeks. It doesn't make sense. Rodney in San Jose makes sense, though, and he wants to join in the pregame show. What's going on, Rodney?
Hi, good morning. I just want to say you're dead on spot on the execution. You know, the Niners are ranked 4th worst in the red zone. Guess who's 3rd? Kansas City. Gee, they're undefeated. What does that tell you? You got 2 teams down in the tank in the red zone, but one team is undefeated and the other one's struggling. Okay, and it's a classic, exactly what you just said. Execution. Okay, and right now they lack that big time, and they need to change that because this year you got a little kind of a strange year this year. Okay. And you have a lot of teams that are like, you know, kind of mediocre. So that gives you a little time there to, you know, kind of fix things. And it's still early in the season. But you know what? You better get the wagons up and rolling. I'm out.
Rodney's out. See ya. Deuces. 888-957-9570. I'm out on this segment, too, because we got a break. We got 2 more to go before handing it off to Bonta Hill, Joe Shasky. I want your thoughts, 49ers fans. 888-957-9570. Hell, if you're just a fan of football, who do you like tonight and why? 49ers, Seahawks, Niners 3.5-point road favorites. If you're a betting person, man, woman, anything you like tonight? Over, under. We can get into that. Plus more sound, Greg Cosell. And I do got to pay my respects to one of the greatest careers in the history of sports and one of the greatest athletes of this century is hanging him up. Announced his retirement. We'll get into that on the pregame show. Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year.
Dub Nation, it's Steve Kerr. You're listening to the pregame show with Joe Spadoni on 95.7 The Game.
Thanks, Coach Kurt. Hey, Steve Kerr knows my name. That's pretty cool. Warriors 122, Kings 112 last night. Warriors improved to 2-0 on this preseason. They made 28 three-pointers. It's a lot. Sustainable? Probably not. But a good showing nonetheless, even if it is preseason. But we got a regular season game tonight, a massive one early on in the season. Week 6 starts tonight. NFL, Niners, Seahawks in Seattle. We got Sleepy Al Michaels on the call with Kirk Herbstreit, Amazon Prime. Yes, we'll get through it together. I'll just say that. We'll get through it together, guys. All right? We'll all be on our phones. We'll all be following along on Twitter, and we'll all be texting and tweeting and doing all of our things. Will the 49ers come out of this game back to 500 in first place in the NFC West? That's the question. 888-957-9570. Who do you like tonight? What do you not like? What are you most confident in this matchup tonight? And what are you worried about? 888-957-9570 is the number. And good morning to all of you on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. We are streaming on all those platforms all night long, all night. Just search 95.7 The Game, like and subscribe, all powered by First NorCal Credit Union. All right. I did tease it, and we'll get back to the football in a second. We'll be back to it. But I woke up to the news that one of the greatest athletes of the century and one of the greatest players of my lifetime in any sport is calling it quits. He's retiring. Yep. At 38 years old, Rafael Nadal, one of the greatest tennis players in the history of the sport, is hanging it up. Former world number one, 22-time Grand Slam winner. He's got the Australian Open. He's got a bajillion French Opens. He's got Wimbledon. He's got U.S. Open. He's got an Olympic gold. He's done it all. And how he did it was different than how Federer did it before him. It was different than how Djokovic did it after him and against him. The strength, being a lefty, the energy, the exuberance. He was a great champion. And I was a Federer guy. So more often than not, I was on the losing end of that battle when he was going up against Nadal. Now, Federer got him occasionally, and Djokovic got the better of Nadal after that. But no one, and I mean no one, was touching Nadal on the clay. The guy was just a maestro. We're talking about surfaces and dominating a particular surface. If that was the hallmark of, Pete Sampras and Roger Federer dominated Wimbledon, it wasn't even close to what Rafael Nadal did on the clay courts. From 05, 06, 07, 08, winning it 4 straight is ridiculous. And then doing it 5 straight times is even more ridiculous in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. He figured he'd give someone a break during 2009. Yeah, I don't need it. Oh, and then 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and then another break, and then 2022. He just dominated that surface. The clay court god, Rafael Nadal, hanging him up at 38 years old. He's been battling injuries as of late. And, the next rising star, if you will, the guy that's already a star in the game is Carlos Alcaraz, a guy that modeled a lot of his game after Rafael Nadal, looked up to Rafa Nadal. And you can see a lot of his play. You can see a lot of Rafa in his play, I should say. And, you're going to be watching, hopefully, Alcaraz for the next decade plus, if his body stays healthy. And you're going to see glimpses of Rafa in there, but there's never going to be another Nadal. Just like there's never going to be another Federer. And coming up pretty soon here, there's never going to be another Novak Djokovic, who is also getting up there in age, and his injury history is starting to stack up a little bit. So, end of an era happening. That's kind of what that signals to me. Yeah, Djokovic 37, going on 38 next year. The greatest era ever in men's tennis. It's not even close. The big three. Hell, at a time, there was a big four for a second. You wanted to slide Murray in there, but really it's the big three when it comes to all just the medals they won. I like to give Murray his respect because in an era dominated by those three guys, Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer, Murray more than held his own. Guys like Murray, guys like Stan Wawrinka, another Swiss legend, but obviously his countrymen, his fellow countrymen, Roger Federer dominated that country in the world of professional tennis for such a long time. He was in that shadow, but even he broke through as well. So, shout out Rafa Nadal, hell of a career. Back to football. If you have thoughts on, tennis, it's the pregame show. I can talk about whatever the hell I want. 888-957-9570. Love to hear it. I still got Joker as the GOAT, though. Even though I want to say Federer, just the grace of how he played on the court, the style, the swag, just everything about his game, I loved. The single-handed backhand, all of it. But Novak, you just got to give it to him. The level of consistency, doing it against Roger, doing it against Nadal, doing it against some of these young cats that have been coming up. It's impressive. Murray, Wawrinka, all of them. Impressive. You know what used to be impressive and what needs to be impressive again tonight as I try my best to segue back to football? It's a freaking red zone for the 49ers. Can they score a damn touchdown? It's really not that hard. I mean, I do it all the time in Madden. You'd think Shanahan, just use some of those play calls. Why not? Right? I mean, he's such a genius. I'm kidding. But I feel the frustration. I do. I feel like it shouldn't be as difficult as the 49ers are making it because you still have all these players. It'd be one thing if the offensive line was decimated. It's not decimated. Like, I didn't watch the game last week and think, man, this offensive line stinks. No, Purdy had time to throw. So I'm looking at the coaching staff and I'm looking at the skill position players right now to gain separation. Why can't they gain that separation? What is it? Are they not fit enough? That can't be the reason. Not in week 6. I refuse to believe that. Not when Brandon Ayuk just went for almost 150 yards receiving. And George Kittle looked pretty damn good too. It's not the fitness level. So if it's not the fitness level and you're not gaining separation, is it the route running? Again, it can't be. Those guys I just mentioned, they just had great performances. So then it has to be the play calling and the scheme and whatever it is. It's just not good enough. So we're going to see something else tonight that's different. Maybe not totally different, but maybe a wrinkle here and there. I think that's all we're asking in the red zone. A play call here and there that shows a different look, that has to keep the defense honest. And maybe it's a naked boot or a quarterback draw, something. And maybe, just maybe, it's time for Kyle Shanahan to trust his quarterback a little bit more. And I know he threw it and slung it a lot last week, but maybe it's time to trust Brock with checking in and out of plays, audibling more, having his own imprint on this offense. Instead of it being a Shanahan offense that Brock Purdy is just the driver for, maybe it's Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan's offense, and they are working in tandem. I don't know. I feel like that's what Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid do. I feel like that's what Lamar Jackson and whoever the hell the offensive coordinator, I know it's not Greg Merman, whoever that is in Baltimore, I feel like that's what they do. McDaniels and Tom Brady forever. That's what they did. You got to work simpatico together on this. And right now it feels like it's still Brock Purdy doing what Kyle wants and not having much of an input. We're up against it. We got one more break. 888-957-9570 is the number. Who's winning tonight and why is the question. Speak now, forever hold your peace. One more segment of the pregame show. Joe Spadoni rolls on 95.7 The Game.
Low testosterone forcing you to ride the bench? Get back in the game, in the gym, or in the bedroom with Balance Medical Solutions.
for the pregame show with the big homie, Joe Spadoni, on 95.7 The Game.
One more segment here, pregame show, rolling on. Before handing it off to Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky, the Morning Roast. They're coming up in about 10 minutes or so. And they got a couple guests. They got Rob Stats on Fire Guerrera breaking down the 49ers, Seahawks and the 49ers angle. And then Dick Fan, radio host up in Seattle of the Softy and Dick show. Yes, the person is even more ridiculous than the name of that show. But the great Dick Fan joining them as well to give the Seattle perspective. So, two guests there, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. And, we've been talking a lot about the red zone offense. We've been talking about the red zone woes, with Christian McCaffrey, the absence of that. So, I don't want any excuses tonight. I do not want any excuses tonight. Too much finger pointing after last game, too much saying, Nick Bosa saying, it was a scheme thing. And then you got Shanahan and Sorensen saying, no, just missed tackles. Just not doing your assignment, not doing your job. And how many times do we hear Bill Belichick throughout the years, just do your job? Well, someone's not doing it on the 49ers. And that's when the blame game starts. And when you start blaming and pointing fingers, you've already lost the battle. That's what you cannot have happen here, is all the finger pointing between the fan base, between the players, between the coaches, between the executives. That's when it starts to be a problem. So a win tonight will calm the waters for now, leading into the biggest game of the year against the Kansas City Chiefs, who are going to be undefeated and maybe be the only undefeated when it's all said and done. Actually, no. Vikings got a bye this week, so there'll be 2 undefeated teams heading into next weekend. So, take care of business tonight. Have a mini bye. Get your mind right. Good things will happen. You don't want to lose this game, lose 2 in a row, and then you're facing the Chiefs. And then you might be staring 0-3 in your last 3, and then it's a problem. It's an absolute problem. But maybe this will cheer 49ers fans up. And I heard this and I saw this, and I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm going to play it for you anyways first. Here's Greg Cosell, who watches all the film, inside and out, the X's and O's, all of that, joined Willard and Dibbs yesterday, as he does each and every week. Here he is talking about the idea that suddenly the 49ers aren't good. He thinks that's ridiculous.
Well, they're missing the best back in the league, and as much as we all like Mason, and he's done a phenomenal job, he doesn't give you the same thing that McCaffrey does, and that kind of back just changes everything about a team. So that's a big, big loss. So, yes, they're not the same there. Essentially, the offensive line is exactly the same with the exception of Pooney, who won the job at right guard. So, offensively, it's the same people. Defensively, they've had some changes because they lost some people, but they've also replaced some people. Hufanga, who actually made a really poor play on the Murray 50-yard touchdown. He got hurt, obviously, and they're now playing the rookie. And when you play a rookie who's strength is probably playing downhill, but played predominantly on the back end because Brown is better when he plays closer to the line of scrimmage. Now that's something they have to work through. So, yeah, there are always some changes to be made in a given season. Absolutely. But they didn't go from being a really good team a year ago, getting into the Super Bowl, almost winning, to suddenly a team that's no good.
Well, they're 2-3 right now. So what would you say they are, Greg? Are they good or bad? Like, you have to pick one of those. You'd still say they're a good team? Good is strong. I'd say they're an average team at best right now. They're average. And you know what? That's okay to be average because there's a lot of bad football right now, so that you can get away with average for a little bit, but not where 49er fans want to get to, and not where this team wants to get to. Average is just not going to cut it. It's not. I refute that they're a good team. Good teams don't lose the way they did against the Rams, against the Cardinals. Good teams are tidied up and execute. That was a sloppy team. That was an average team that I saw last week. Resting on their laurels at times. Just because you have the most talent with the names on offense and the names on defense doesn't mean you're going to win each and every week. Hell, look at the Minnesota Vikings right now. Yes, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are ballers. Where are people taking Sam Darnold before this season? It's the bottom 5 quarterbacks in the league, right? If you were just polling all the different, you put like him, Gardner Minshew, hell, I don't know, Deshaun Watson. People weren't high on Sam Darnold. And you couldn't name me, like, no more Danielle Hunter on that defense for Minnesota. Van Ginkel, okay. Yes, I love Van Ginkel. And they got dudes, they just got guys everywhere. Guys that aren't household names, that are everywhere. And they are dominating each and every week. They're 5-0. They're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC and the best team in all football right now through the first 5 weeks. Now, doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot if you don't do anything in the playoffs. And that's only the goal for the 49ers. I get it. Is just to make the playoffs. So 9-8, by definition, is good because you are above 500. And as long as this team gets in, they do get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to just getting into the playoffs. That's how much respect I have for what Kyle Shanahan has done with that team once he gets there. They've never been one and done. Never been one and done. But they have been in this kind of situation before a couple years ago. Was that 2021? When they were struggling a little bit. They had some injuries. You know, you didn't quite know what you were getting with Garoppolo. It wasn't good. Then all of a sudden, they went on a run, got to the NFC Championship, and were a quarter away, saw me if you heard that before, of getting to the Super Bowl and taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, and who knows? Maybe you win, maybe you lose. But right now, it's okay to say that they're not a good team. That doesn't mean it can't change. And Greg, hey, listen, I listened to the interview, and Dibbs just disagreed, and Greg took exception to that. He's like, well, watching the film, that they are a good team. Okay, if you just want to do the definitions of what a good team is, good teams aren't 2-3. It's not. If they win tonight, they're back to 500. Beat the Chiefs? Yeah. We're going to feel really good about where we are at. But it starts tonight, and it starts with a massive game on Thursday Night Football in Seattle. 888-957-9570 is the number. Dustin in Martinez wants to join in on the conversation. What's going on, Dustin? You're on the pregame show.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, I was just saying, how about the Shanahan and the team focus on not watching film for the opposing team? And we'll watch it, but mostly watch their film from the last season's first 5 games. How about that? Focus on what they did right there.
Yeah, that helps, but a lot of that was Dustin, and we can talk here for a second. I'm not going to cut you off. A lot of that was with Christian McCaffrey, though, last year. So, yes, looking at last year helps, but this is a new offense without Christian McCaffrey, as we're learning. So they have to adapt, and they've had all offseason to, kind of think about this. And I get it, Christian McCaffrey, he was practicing, he wasn't practicing, and then he got the Achilles thing, and that popped up, and that flared up. They knew there was an injury here, but they still went about this season, it feels like, thinking Christian McCaffrey was going to be a major focus on offense, and he might not even play this year. So now it feels like there was no backup plan with Jordan Mason, and they're scrambling. And they need to figure it out quick. And how do they do that? How do you feel about tonight's matchup, Dustin? Are you worried about tonight?
Yeah, definitely, even though it should be a no-brainer win, but we'll have to see.
Should it be? Real quick, Dustin, real quick. I don't mean a no-brainer win tonight? You think so for the 49ers?
Prior to the season starting.
Prior to the season. Okay. Well, that's the thing, Dustin. I appreciate you calling. That's the thing with these things. Like, every season's different. Just because the 49ers dominated last year doesn't mean they're going to dominate this year. Just because a team was bad last year doesn't mean they can't be. The Minnesota Vikings were not a good team last year after Kirk Cousins got hurt. And then what happened? Oh, their rookie quarterback that they were going to start got hurt. No one expected this Minnesota Vikings team to be good, but that's the beauty of the NFL. It's not only a week-to-week league, it's a year-to-year league. And everything can change. Everything can change. Like, the Chiefs may never win another Super Bowl. That might have been their last one. It's still one of the greatest teams of all time, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, greatest head coaches of all time. But that could have been it for him. That could have been Kyle Shanahan's closest he ever got to winning a Super Bowl. And I'm not the only one that feels like that. Steve Young, Hall of Fame quarterback, who's been there multiple times, he kind of feels like that too. That was the shot to beat the Chiefs. Doesn't mean they can't get back. It just makes it a lot harder to do that. And I think we're seeing why this season. Let's get to Rob out in Concord. We got a couple minutes left here. Rob, what's going on, man? You're on the pregame show.
Good morning, man. Love the show. I have to agree with you. You had mentioned earlier 49ers looking for how come they can't find that red zone, right? So I'm looking back at last season, and even though with CMC on the roster and on the field when he's healthy, there are a couple of times, and we've seen it this season, where in the second half, the defenses of other teams they're picking up the tendencies of Kyle Shanahan. Well, that's what it seems like. And that offense of Kyle Shanahan's just goes completely dry. And last game, they were shut out by the Arizona Cardinals. So if we look back against the Jets and their 2 wins this season, it's something to look at. Hopefully it's addressed. Hopefully going into tonight's game, they have a better outing, because they can put up the points in the first half, but for whatever reason, in the second half, they fall very short. What's your thoughts on that? Thank you.
It's a good point. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, right? To go with the cliche. Like, I don't care what you did in the first 3 quarters. I mean, if that was the case, the 49ers would be 2-time Super Bowl champions under Kyle Shanahan. But they're not, because they falter. When push comes to shove, the other team made plays and the 49ers didn't. And honestly, that's kind of what we're seeing this year with 2 of their losses. I think the Vikings were just a better team. They were dominating most of that game. If Fred Warner doesn't have the game of his life, it's going to be a blowout. But it's the same script with that Rams loss and why that Cardinals loss, and it's why I think Greg Cosell still thinks his 49ers team is good, even though they are 2-3. It's because they let those teams off the hook. But good teams don't let teams off the hook is all I'm trying to say. I refute that. Doesn't mean their film can't look good at times. I'm sure their film looked great at times. How'd the film look on special teams? Not good. How'd the film look on the defense in that final drive for the Arizona Cardinals last week? Not good. So they better figure it out. Keys for tonight's game if the 49ers want to win, not settling for field goals in the red zone. Being aggressive and not settling with Matthew Wright field goals, your backup kicker, who I don't even know if is any good. We'll find out tonight. And we'll also find out next from Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky, the Morning Roast. I'm back Tuesday. I'm going to Hawaii. Mahalo, everybody.